One of the weirdest parts about growing up is realizing that some friendships don't end because of one big fight, but because you just slowly turn into a different person. And sometimes you only realize who people really are when life actually gets serious. During COVID, I finally had the chance to follow a wish of mine. I finally wanted to take streaming on Twitch a little bit more seriously because that was something I had in the back of my mind for a longer period of time. And with the release of Animal Crossing New Horizons, which was by the way one of the more anticipated titles for me back then, I finally did it. For a small nobody like me, it actually went pretty well. And at my highest point, I was averaging around 30 viewers, which may not sound like a lot, but when you're just sitting in your room, and especially because of COVID, you couldn't go anywhere, suddenly feel like, damn, actual people show up every stream to talk to me, to remember these inside jokes, and to support me. It felt pretty huge, to be honest. And for the first time, I had this small online world around me and a bunch of new people I would eventually call my friends. But in that time, my life was also like at a turning point because around the same period, I just graduated from school and I had dropped out of computer science. Like after school, I went into university and I dropped out of it because I just hated it. And honestly, I was feeling pretty lost. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know where to go. I disappointed my mom and I was feeling really down. But at least I had my social circle online, right? But I was still kind of scared of becoming a loser because there's a huge world out there and I just didn't want to just sit in my room all the time. It was a pretty uncomfortable feeling when you look at your own life and realize if I don't do something, I might actually end up somewhere where I don't want to be. I was 22 when I dropped out of university and I literally had no ground below my feet, right? I was living at my parents' home and but during this time streaming gave me comfort and it gave me something to focus on. Small community, people to talk to, and a place where I could feel like I really belonged. I made a bunch of new friends. We played together, talked almost every day, shared personal things. And for a while, I feel like I found my group. I even met some of these people a couple of times. People who I just could play games with and talk to them about almost anything and escape the pressure and responsibilities of real life. This time expired really fast. I realized that something changed after a vacation in Thailand. We went there to visit my family. I really needed that, to be honest, when I'm looking back, because it gave me new ambition and find a way to build my life into a lane where I could make it possible to potentially work abroad. I wanted to have freedom, right? I wanted to leave Germany one day because if you know the retirement system in Germany, it's basically that the remaining working force is financing the retired population in Germany. Because of birth rates, all of that, this system is genuinely cooked, and you're not going to get a lot of money when you're retiring after working in Germany. I had to do something, right? I had to try to find new opportunities. And my first step was to begin an apprenticeship to become a media management assistant. And I started thinking more seriously about my future, about money, started investing, about skills, and what kind of life I actually wanted to build, right? Now I'm trying to find new opportunities because I'm now in a job, which is not the best job, to be honest. Some would like what I do. It's video production and a bunch of other things. I want to gain more financial resources because I want to benefit from having more options so my 30s don't become something that I regret. I don't want to end up as someone who had potential but never did anything with it. And after taking life more seriously, you also start to notice who grows with you and who actually supports a version of you that is trying to make something of themselves. You realize who values you beyond the occasional entertainment of playing games together. You realize who's a real friend and who's worthwhile of keeping around. That realization hurts. You just don't want to leave these people behind because you spend a lot of time with them. And I also entrusted some people who I really thought that they were my true friends with some deepest personal information about me. I only did this because I saw value in them, right? And only weeks later, when it was time for them to show up in a way to, you know, move forward in the friendship, they disappointed me in a way I never thought possible. Not because they made like one simple mistake or something. It's because they just didn't show up in the way I would expect a real friend would show up and reach out. They didn't take responsibility, didn't act like people who truly valued me, and people who really wanted me to be around them. And that's when I realized that I was holding onto memories more than the reality of them. Real friendship is not just late night gaming sessions. It's not just Discord calls. It's not just inside jokes, shared memories, or going to Gamescom together. Real friendships also show itself when things get really uncomfortable. When someone is struggling, when someone needs you to step up, even just a little. And some people simply won't because they're too comfortable in their own comfort zone. Not out of hate, because the memories to them don't really mean anything. To them, it probably just was another gaming session with one of these internet friends. And I just couldn't afford to stay attached to these people. My responsibilities grew drastically in the recent years. My dad got seriously ill. My mom had to go into medical treatment. And now I am in a job, I have work responsibilities, and I'm trying to build a more stable career and to get more money, basically. I just cannot F this up. And I'm not going to let these relations that I still hold in my memory hold me back of reaching my goals. But still, sometimes you still look back because at one point you really called these people friends. These memories are real, of course, and they were fun. You had funny times, right? But it was just comfort, and the comfort was real. And it's really hard to get out of comfort because if you stay in comfort and don't step up and take responsibility, you might end up as a 30-year-old loser. And that is something that I was really trying to avoid and still am because I could still become a loser. Like, I'm not trying to talk down to anybody, but I see this threat of people becoming too comfortable very early in their lives. And I'm also seeing myself threatened by it. You just can't keep dragging old versions of yourself with you because they once felt safe around this certain group of people. Because you gotta try to follow your ambition and build something and do something with your life. I'm also not trying to say that video games are like a waste of time or anything. I love video games. I'm still going to play them, but not in an amount where it's going to take up my whole life. Yeah, and I simply just got to a point where I just had to let go. Sometimes we just need to realize that not everyone we meet is going to be there for the long run.